Hi, I'm Vintage Foster, and I'm the CEO of AMF Media Group, and I'm a partner at Armanino. And companies are coming to us. I spent a lot of time on this. How do we re-engage in the marketplace and do so successfully? And the best way I know how to think about this is for companies to ask first two basic questions, okay? The first question is the present environment pushing us to refine our service model or our product, or is this a complete departure? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. Because let's face it, the world we are now moving into is not the world that we were engaged in just 4 months ago. And then the second question is, for how long? Is this change we think is in place for 3 or 4 months, or is, hey, moving forward, it's just a whole new ball game and it's indefinite? Once a company answers that question, or once you as a leader and your team begins to sort through that and answer that question, you can have alignment around how you are moving forward in your business. Now, that's alignment with the executive team. That's alignment with the leadership team. Now you have to say, how do we get alignment with our stakeholders? And stakeholders are everything. So stakeholders are your employees, stakeholders are your vendors, stakeholders are your customers, stakeholders are your supply chain, your channel partners. In some cases, companies go to market collectively. They may partner with another service provider to provide a set of solutions. So your stakeholders, now that we know it's refinement or it's a change and we know how long, now it's who are those stakeholders? What is the message that we have to deliver to each stakeholder group? Because each stakeholder group, the message is going to change a bit. And then how's the best way to deliver that message, where it's going to resonate, where it's going to have meaning, where it's going to have impact? And so let's talk about those stakeholders. First and foremost, the employees. I always start with the employees. Why? Because they're the brand ambassadors. They live and die in the trenches around this service or this product. Your employees are coming back to the workforce and they're a little different, okay? They've been gone. And so what they're saying is, I'm coming back to a place I haven't been in a while. And the first thing you're saying to me is, oh, by the way, the products changed or the service models changed. That creates, they're already anxious. Now you've added another layer of anxiousness to them. So let's think about that. Let's say we make widgets, okay? And our widgets are square, okay? Well, companies decided, oh, for the next 5-6 months, we need to make triangle widgets, okay? And that's just the right thing to do in this present environment. So I come back to work. I'm a little anxious. I hadn't been here. Is this a safe environment? I'm not gonna catch COVID, right? Oh, by the way, now we make a different product. Well, how I made square widgets is different than how I make triangle widgets. So it's a new product. It's a new manufacturing process. Oh, by the way, we may need a different set of specs on materials to make those triangle. So the specs have changed, which means how I order supplies, how I manage vendor relations has changed. Everything is different. It's like they're coming back to a new company. And so you have to think about that. And how do we message that? Why is the triangle better? What's the time frame for which the triangle is going to be in existence? And yes, I acknowledge that this is new for you. Let's figure this out together. Now that's a product. Let's talk about a service. Let's say you're an accountant and you're an auditor, right? And auditors, for the most part, spend a good amount of time on site with the client that they're auditing, excuse me. Now, why is that beneficial? It's beneficial because you have instant access to information but sometimes, most of the time we can get that electronically, right? But also, if you look at something and it needs explanation, it needs context, it needs more information to round that out so you can come to the right conclusion, you can simply walk down the hall, knock on the door and say to the CFO, to the treasurer, to the controller, to the CEO, can you explain this component? Because I'm a little lost here. That's part of the process. But in this new environment, as an auditor, I may not be on site now. Well, how's that going to affect or impact my ability to get to data quickly and to get context? And by the way, you're an auditor at a really good company, and so the company expects you to really grow the relationship, to solidify our relationship with that client. And you can build connection because you're face-to-face, you're in their environment, you're part of the ecosystem. But in this new world, you're not. So what's the company's expectation around that? Oh, and by the way, when I was in the environment, right, it took me 2 months to complete or lead a team that completes an audit. But because information doesn't flow as quickly, because access is not as simple, it may take me 2.5 months now to complete an audit. Does my leader understand that? Or does he or she think, hey, I've lost a step because I've been working remotely and they don't think I'm working as hard? No, we don't want the team member to come to that conclusion. We want to be out front of that. We want to say, look, we understand access is not as strong. We understand proximity doesn't play in the same way that it does. We understand on the end result, it may take another 2 weeks. How can we partner so it can take an extra week instead of 2? That's the kind of conversation we want to have because the model has changed. It's been refined or it's been adjusted. And it's going to affect the employee in this way. And if we are out in front of that, we help them feel kind of committed and we put them in a place where they can be successful. Now, let's talk about that vendor, right? Because that's one of your stakeholders. And so let's go back to the production piece. Now that we make triangle, right? We make triangle widgets. Well, guess what? When I package it, I need a slightly larger box because of that angle, right? And when my trucking company backs up to the loading dock to pick up all our widgets, and now the box is bigger, which means that affects how many boxes he or she can get in that trailer. If we've not communicated to our vendor partner that the specs have changed, therefore the boxes have changed, therefore that may affect your transportation to the retail outlets. Imagine that truck driver pulling up and finding out he or she cannot get all the boxes in their trailer. Well, that's the kind of thing we have to think through. So we should be engaged with our vendor partner saying, by the way, change in the product. Here's how long we think the product change is going to be in existence. I would go a step further. Let me tell you why we came to this conclusion and why we think this is the right decision in this environment for all of us, so that the vendor is engaged in as well. Now, the other really important stakeholder is the consumer. In no way should your consumer find out on his or her own that there's a change in the relationship. We should be out front. Hey, consumer, here's the deal. Let's use your auditor as an example. By the way, in this county, we are not allowed to be in an office unless it's an essential business, or now maybe in our company, for the safety of our employees, we are asking our auditors to not be in other people's offices but X amount of time. So that means you will not see him or her in your office as much as you may have in the past. Let me tell you what we've done to ensure that we can have quality information, we can have access to you, you can have access to us, and how this we have thought of everything we could to minimize impact on the quality of our service and the timeliness of our service. We want to go to that customer or consumer. We want to tell them what we're doing, why we're doing it, how it affects them, and hopefully how we show or demonstrate value in the relationship so that we can meet their needs. That's a stakeholder we have to embrace and communicate with. I'm going to tell you something. Anytime there is a service change or a product change, granted, it's a good product or it's a good service. Success is everything. Everything about success is the adoption of the success ecosystem. The employee saying, I get it and I'm in. The vendor or channel partner saying, I get it and here's how I can help. And the consumer or the decision maker, the customer saying, I understand why you're doing this. I understand that you have me in mind and I'm with you. Communication is paramount in this environment that we work in. Let's recap. First question, refinement, significant change. Whichever the answer, how long? What's the time frame? Once we define that, we have executive and leadership management. Now we got to get leadership alignment within all our stakeholder groups. So who are the stakeholder groups? My employees, my vendors, my channel partners, and ultimately my customer. What's the message for each of those stakeholders, and what's the best way to tell that or deliver that? And that is really the framework of success, and how are we going to engage moving forward. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today, and I wish you well on your journey to success.